Hey everybody, welcome back. And oh man, do I've got an exciting episode for you today where I'm going to be speaking with my friend Josh Walker, who's the co-founder and CMO of a killer brand called 1620 Workwear. And we're going to be talking about all things entrepreneurship, brand building, marketing, you name it. So strap in and get your notepad out because here we go. Josh, welcome to the podcast.
Amir, awesome to be on here, man. Thanks so much for having me.
I'd love for you to just kick things off and tell everybody a little bit about 1620 Workwear.
For sure. We're a fully direct-to-consumer workwear brand, also fully made in the USA. We started the company in 2016. We basically didn't sell our first item online until 2017. Mainly distributed direct-to-consumer. We do some B2B and uniform and logo wear for a number of companies. It's kind of like our omni-channel approach to it. Started in basically my dad's barn, my business partner and I. We can get into kind of the idea of kind of why we're not after the category, but started like two guys with not a lot of money to kind of throw at it and just, and no heat, no bathroom, just like kind of an old barn. And we built it up to a pretty good sized company. We're 20 employees now in a 10,000 square foot building, and we've raised some capital and just kind of fully going after it. We were able to double the business for a few years in a row here and just, working on growth, playing the internet game every day and trying to give the working guy just better gear. With the workwear in general is a really devalued category, arguably more wasteful than fast fashion. I think working guys go through their work pants faster than young ladies go through some of the stuff they buy at Zara. And we also are trying to really be the most sustainable brand in the category as well too. We've got a really interesting sustainability program called the Patina Collection, similar to like a Patagonia one-wear protection. I probably went a bit longer an intro, but that's 1620 Workwear. Our website's is 1620usa.
Yeah, I love it. So maybe tell the story, like how you and your co-founder, how'd you come up with the idea, and what inspired you to enter the workwear market?
Yeah, so most of the idea and the brain trust lies in my business partner, Ted Deinnis, who's a great guy. I've been friends with him for 20 years now. And at the time, I'm a two-time entrepreneur. The first company I tried to start was called Burn Helmet, a skateboard, snowboard, cycling helmet brand. We were running that out of Southern Massachusetts. I go to trade shows for that company. At the time, Ted had started a ski-wear brand called Shoes. We both come from the action sports industry. We see each other at trade shows. At the time, he left Shoes and took an opportunity to move to mainland China. So he was living in mainland China, managing a massive manufacturing facility over there, making all outdoor stuff, so like North Face, Patagonia, Rafa, Arc'teryx, managing a major turnover. And we'd see each other at international trade shows, like the ISPO trade show, which is a big snow sports trade show in Germany. And we've always kind of wanted to start something together, him and I. We kind of thought that our skill sets complemented a lot each other. And he was basically getting his doctoral degree in clothing manufacturing while there. The KTC, the factory he's at, is one of the top manufacturers in Asia for tape seams and technical garments. I was always rocking Carhartt. I came from a blue collar family. My dad was a builder. My grandfather was a builder. My brother's a golf course superintendent. So just always around the trades. I pounded nails in the summertime and helped frame houses and things, through my way through college. And, one of his bigger customers over there was a workwear brand for the European marketplace. And what he kind of saw with the European, marketplace and culture was they were taking best in class fabrics and taking a lot of things from the outdoor industry and kind of putting them into work, because the apprenticeship program and just things specifically in Bavaria and Germany, it's just different in the States. A lot of young people go into the trades in Europe. And we kind of saw that was just kind of starting to happen culturally here, where there's a skill gap kind of shortage and skilled labor shortage. And so he had workwear on it. It's also just it's a better category when it comes to clothing for evergreen products. And you don't have to reinvent the wheel every year as hardcore as if you're a North Face's snow collection, or these guys have to reinvent the wheel every year. There's a ton of waste. There's a ton of stuff that hits the gray market. And also it was a customer that's starting to make more money, and we kind of pegged. We met and talked about it. We kind of pegged it it's sometimes something's going to have to give, where people aren't going to look down their nose at plumbers the way they did in when we first started talking about it in 2015. Oh, this guy's fixing my toilet in my house, blah blah blah. We're in the world we're in today. That guy's making $150 to $200 an hour. You got to wait a couple weeks for him to get into your house. It's just everything's really shifted, where there was so many kids coming out of college and so much white collar talent, and the trades were just. They weren't respected. They were looked down upon. We thought let's make something that's better. A lot of the product ideas in the fabrics. Ted already knew what he wanted to make. He already knew the silhouettes. He'd been braining on it, thinking about it for a while. Back from mainland China, I left Burn, and we kicked it off. And we made an initial launch collection. We wanted to use fabrics that have never been used in the category before, and and they're insanely expensive. Our working gear is anywhere from like 2 to 4x more expensive than say like a Carhartt, which is the biggest brand in the space. Thought we were out of our minds, but we pegged this guy was already earning and was going to start to earn even more, and they were going to be some of the highest earners consumers out there. And there's all these premium products that already existed for this space, whether it be tools. This is right. Yeti starting to take off, and kind of working guy. That's where the brand really fishing guys hunt. And so you get this cooler that 4x, and it was better. So, like we wanted to do something similar to that. We came out with our basically two. One was 174 and one was 198, which at the time everyone was just like, my friends were like, you expect me to pay this much for pants? But we put it out there. We built a website. We raised it, and the launch collection kind of sold out in the first week. And then we said, okay, we're on to something. Let's continue to develop the business plan. Let's put together like a friends and family around here and raise some money, and let's go after it and see if we can make it happen. And that was in 2016.
I love it. So do you feel like with the price point and everything, like that was an objection you had to handle in the beginning, or is it something where your market just kind of got it? How did that shake out?
I think price aversion is something that the brand will always deal with, right? I think but at the end of the day, and a lot of young guys contact me or friends of mine, and everyone started a clothing brand, and a lot of people have started clothing brands, and clothing is it's a really cool part of our culture, right? It's something you wear. There's so many different brands. It's something that it's your identity. It's the first thing people see when you kind of walk up to them. But I do think that the only way to really go in 2024, especially if you're two guys in the barn, is upmarket, right? I mean, there's no way we're going to be able to compete with these big brands when it comes to price point, and there's no way we're going to be able to compete with these big brands and differentiate if we're just making the same stuff. You have to have an insane amount of capital to kind of really kind of play them. And listen, there's some brands that have come into the space of capital in just that. We wanted to create like a healthy, sustainable. We thought the only way you could get premium, I think, in any category, especially in the U.S., be hydrogen bottle that you buy on Amazon for $19, or hydro. If you see everyone sees on Instagram that's selling for $9. The difference, in this case, it might not be the product quality. It was the product quality, and it was the brand, and we wanted to create something that they connect with. Also wanted to make it in the U.S. Burn fully manufactured in Asia and still is, and Ted had been there for a long time. And there's a lot of stuff that we made categories, and that's amazing. I respect where they did probably a different, but American only. There's such heavy restrictions environmentally on manufacturing clothing and washing that it doesn't get greener, and the footprint doesn't get small in terms of carbon footprint. So we're both outdoorsmen. We're both heavily involved in the environment. I do conservation work, so we wanted to make stuff in the U.S. We wanted to make better stuff, and unfortunately, making stuff in the U.S. and using best-in-class fabrics that are also made in the U.S. and trims and zippers, it comes with a price. And I think that's a lot of people just don't really understand, clothing, and they go into Walmart, they go into Zara, and they see the price point. But I think it was as late as like 1993 or 1994, we were still buying like over 80% of our clothing was still made in the U.S. Now it's like less than 3%, right? So the offshoring was accelerated in the 2000s, and with it comes like just an unrealistic price point for like sewing and clothing manufactured to be U.S. At the price points that are out there right now. So like half of the cost in our product is fabric, the other half of the cost is in labor, and if you want the best in class fabrics, it costs money. If you want to get the best American sewers to sew your stuff, it costs money. So price aversion is always going to be something we're going to kind of trying to overcome. But I will say that this customer gets it. There's a big difference between a $150 pair of work boots and a $280 pair of Thoroughgoods. Right? Thoroughgoods is the best workwear boot. It's made in the U.S. and it costs that much to wear the best stuff. You want to buy a $150 boot, great. It's not going to be as good. It's not going to last as long. And we kind of had to prove that like one customer at a time that what we said about the true, that it lasted longer, that it performed better. Knock on some wood, we've been able to do that, and we're still going strong.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, here I am with about $100 water bottle. Never spent that much on a water bottle in my life. Holy smokes! But it's got some cool tech in it, so there you go. I got sold on it, right? And I think what you're saying rings true, because it's such a. I mean, I was shocked when I learned that the fashion industry is one of the only industries that like hasn't had inflation at all, right? Like in the 70s, you bought a t-shirt for $10 and you can still buy a t-shirt for $10, right? And so, I mean, and so I think you're right. I think on one hand, there's a side of us there's the consumers that are just used to throwing stuff away, right? And just kind of just been trained that way. But then there's also this huge group of conscious consumers that are absolutely wanting to know where their dollars are going, want to support brands that are making a difference, making an impact. And I think a lot of people are, with all the documentaries out there and everything else, they're becoming more and more aware. Right? I think it's definitely more in the fashion world that it's becoming more well known, but that has a trickle down effect regardless, as fashion does literally. But
sure.
I mean, I'm sure you're having to handle less objections these days as it relates to some of that stuff that you did when you started.
Yeah, for sure. And on the inflation topic, we have seen price points kind of go up with other brands, but only until very recently. The average pair of work pants right now is like the $79 range, when it used to, when we started, it was more like in the $59 range. That's only happened in the last few years. And I think you're right. I think we hadn't seen the cost of t-shirt go up for so long because fabric, my partner loves to say this, he always says, so I'm copying a little bit, but fabric is a commodity. Everyone's paying the same price for fabric. And what drove my business partner the craziest, and why he really wanted to do it here is this cotton would come from the U.S. and it would come over. Some of the cotton would get milled or whatever in Asia. It would go back and forth, and final product. And a lot of fabric is still made in the U.S. Fabric out of Fall River, Massachusetts, called tweed. It's the best four-way stretch fabric in the world, in our opinion. There's a brand out of Switzerland called Scholler that probably runs it. It's used by Nike and the NFL on-field jerseys. It's used by Arc'teryx throughout their line. It's been used by some top tactical brands. And it's right here in Fall River, Massachusetts. And we actually cut and sew the pant here in Massachusetts as well, too, that we use the fabric in two specific products, pants and shorts. So it's 100% made in our home state, shipped out of Massachusetts. And, I'm super proud. I know Teddy is as well, too. It doesn't get any more sustainable or more hometown, than that, right? We're able to make a $198 work pant in our home state and sell it around the world. Right, we sell around the country. Our biggest state's California. We employ people in Massachusetts to do it. We help employ this fabric mill in Massachusetts as well too. And I'm super, super proud of that. We could make flannels offshore and be driving nicer trucks and make a lot of money doing that. But I think we're entrepreneurs. We want to make money, but at the same time, I do think that it's the entrepreneurs in the world today and young entrepreneurs who are listening to this, or existing entrepreneurs. It's our duty. It's our we have to think about things differently, right? We can't just be drop shipping stuff that's made in some abyss that affects human beings in their lives, and we have to own it. We got to do things that are right. And I think, listen, I sold millions, tens of millions of expanded polystyrene helmets. I have to undo some of that damage. That stuff will be in the environment forever. But we have an opportunity as an entrepreneur to do good stuff. And there's a lot of great brands that have done it. Whether it's the sock brand that I'm spacing on the name, Bombas Socks, right? I mean, there's some great cause market behind that. They've been insanely successful, and homeless dudes need socks, right? That makes everyone feel good about it. I'm proud when I get on to Greensboro, North Carolina, or I go to Texas, or I go to my factory in here in Massachusetts, and I see, what we're doing. That's one of the things that makes me the most proud, is that we were able to kind of do that in the U.S. because I think there's super important jobs. These proletariat sewing jobs are super important for first and second generation Americans. They need to exist for people to come to this country and bring their family here. And if we don't have any of those jobs, there's only so many people that can cut hair and serve hamburgers, right? So, that's my little soapbox on it.
I love it though, because it is, and I think. We all do that, right? I'm proud that my car was made in Detroit, and a couple of my watches were made in Detroit, and right, I love that aspect, right? And so it's an easy thing to get behind, but as a customer, but I think one of the things that you're hitting on, which is super important, and actually, I think there's almost an argument to be made. You can sometimes have a much higher ROI in that instance, and what I mean by that is because you can produce a product for cheaper and make more margins there. But on the flip side, you're building a brand and you're building a strong team. And when you have a strong team that believes in the brand, believes in the product, and your customer base does, that just resonates at a much higher frequency that others aren't going to get, right? I mean, we're mentioning Zara's. I think that's an easy one to just highlight, right? It's just okay, they're just going to be chasing trends and chasing the next thing and the next thing, and someone's going to be oh, that's cute, I like it, but there's nothing to stand behind, right? People who work there, it's it's a job. right? It's not like this super passionate, this thing that you're super passionate about that you go home and you're like, I feel like I stand for something, right? And I've got a job that's making a difference. And that's how you retain A players. That's how you attract really high quality talent, right? Like, I think there's all those aspects that actually could produce a higher ROI, especially in the long term, right? Than actually the other end of it, right? I'm sure it could kind of go both ways, but
No, that's a really good value, right? I mean, like, I'm not an entrepreneur for purely altruistic reasons, right? Like, we're here to make money. We're in the game to win, and I think like it also creates value for your brand. And it creates value for what you're building. If there ever is a moment when you raise money, and I think like if you do kind of create that unbreakable like foundation of like who you are, what you stand for, and what you're doing, there's always going to be value in that if you stay kind of true to it. And like, listen, we know the brands that were built that way, and then they got purchased by larger companies, and what happened to those kind of brands in the clothing space or other kind of space. And that's sort of like the life cycle for a lot of great brands, especially a lot of American-made brands that eventually get snatched up. But I think that's what made them valuable in the first place is like, again, like you said, building the supply chain, building the team, building the structure, and building that lifetime value with the customer that cares about what you're doing.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so I'm curious, maybe kind of on the fabric side of things. So I know you said kind of traditional workwear often is going to rely on cotton. And then, with 1620, you chose to focus on this advanced technical fabrics. Like, did that resonate with customers? Is it something you've had to really try to highlight? Like, hey, how's this feature resonates or translates into a benefit to you? Like, is it something they got, or did you have to educate? Like, what did that look like?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think sound like a workwear expert. I mean, like, listen, at the end of the day, 90% of the dudes are working in jeans. It's exciting as an entrepreneur that's bringing new stuff to a bunch of customers you can convert. They've only worked in jeans. They don't understand technical fabric. The successful working guy is a very funny customer. He's driving a $75,000 truck. He either hunts or fishes or skis or snowmobiles, so he owns like all the good, whether it's climb gear, whether it's one of the top hunting brands like QU or Sitka. He spends money like on all these kind of things, but then he'll wear like pair of Walls jeans from Walmart, like the cheapest kind of like clothing, because the mentality is, I'm just going to destroy it on the job. Like, why would I spend a lot of money in it? But to have the $75,000 truck, he's putting 50 to 60 hours in a week. He's spending so much time in this cotton gear, and like, it really dawned on me. My dad's still a super active guy. He's 77 years old, and he's a wild man. He's got a Harley, and he rips around all the time. And I was up on a roof with him, like it was like year 3 of our business, and he was still kind of wearing Carhartts because he hadn't really fully converted some of the stuff we were making, and he couldn't move in them, right? And like, no knock on Carhartt, because I love that brand. I love some of the guys that are behind the brand that treat us really well. I have some great friends from that brand. It's an iconic family-owned brand. I have a ton of respect for them.
But it's thick and stiff in order to
canvas. It doesn't dry. You can't move in it. Like, everyone knows this. Well, y'all have a pair of Carhartts. It's like something you wash it. They stand straight up in the room like you starched them. And like, so that fabric is just archaic. It's stuff that they were using in the 1900s. So we also developed a custom fabric with Cordura called our Stretch Nyko, which is like a nylon cotton with a little bit of spandex in it. It meets like a no melt, no drip standard. So we do heavyweight fabric. Then we have the very technical stretch fabric. We've stayed away from denim because unless you do, what Pete and the boys up in Maine have done at Origin, which is, fucking amazing, and a ton of respect for these guys. They've created their own looms and they're making their own denim. Because you can't even find American denim. I don't mean to swear. You can't find American. You can't even buy it in the open market. It's not even made anymore. And brands are Dearborn or whatever. They're very small brands, and it's tough to find it. So, like, what those guys have done is amazing. They had to do it from scratch, right? Because they're insanely resourceful, but to do that is like a massive undertaking as it is. You have to be very capitalized, and those guys are very capitalized. We're still a very small company, and so we developed a fabric with Cordura, but like open market fabrics, the best fabrics still aren't widely used because the price point's so high. But we developed our own. We're using an open market that's super specialized, and we all use mil spec buttons and zippers. We did have to educate the customer. A reason to believe, a reason to pay money. We're still educating the customer. We're still putting about 65% to like 60 to 65% new customers into the funnel every day, and that's still an educational journey, and that's still a process. What we're finding is certain fabrics work better for certain jobs and certain vocations. The coolest thing about 1620, one of the things we're the most proud of, is like since inception we have an over 65% repeat customer rate, right? So like when guys get it, it definitely works for them. It speaks to them, and we become their work pen of choice. Like, we're their quiver. I think what probably hurts us is we make stuff so good and it lasts so long that they don't, like at first the repeat rate was really high the first few years because they were getting their quivers up, and now like we see the LTV, when you're looking at stuff through lifetime, it changes a little because they've got 5 or 6 pairs of pants that can go a few years, right? Unless their job is really, unless they're like my buddies are Union 7 iron worker, and those guys go through pants. And those guys are the tough iron workers, in my opinion, from my experience doing this for 8 years, they're the toughest on gear. Some vocations, they can pair of pants will last them 3 or 4 years. Sometimes, last 6 months. We fully back every single life. So we've got 2 full-time sewers in the building right now, and you send the pants to us or send anything to us that you bought from 1620. We fix it for free and we cover shipping back to you. And so like, some guys, stuff will come in like 8 or 9 months, not a full year. And sometimes guys will kind of run for years, but we had to educate people. And then these guys are a very loyal customer. When they find something that works, they find something that works. If it's a Red Wing boot, they're going to wear a Red Wing boot for life. If it's an Occidental leather tool belt, they're going to wear that belt for life. If it's 1620 pants, they're going to wear those pants for life.
I love it. And I mean, I'm curious a little bit because we're kind of talking about ideal customers and whatnot. I'm curious how did you identify the ideal customer? And then I think along those lines, you just mentioned, hey, there's guys that are a lot harder on their gear, some guys that are not quite as hard on their gear. What strategies have you done to kind of identify the ideal customer and then maybe how to reach them?
Yeah, coming into the business planning process, we created some avatars. I think the one thing that we're pretty lucky with is like, I grew up in a very blue collar place with a lot of blue collar friends. All my buddies are in the trades. I'm around them all the time. I was a young guy working in the trades. I worked in landscape construction, and I worked for a home builder for years. And most of my buddies in high school went into the trades. And back then, I'm gonna be 48 in September, so I'm no longer a young man. But back then in '94, when you were graduating high school, like if you weren't going to college, it's like you were taking your senior trip to Vietnam or something. Like everyone's like, oh, you're not going to college. And like all my friends that were in the trades have all been very successful. Some of them have been extremely successful as sole proprietors. So young guys, listen to this. A lot of opportunity in the trades. There's a lot of opportunity. Whoever wants to start a trade school out there or a welding school, gold mines right now. There's a massive skilled labor shortage. I was served an ad last week by Meta where they're teaching kids how to weld in the metaverse with the Oculus because there's not enough welding schools, and we have to put hundreds of thousands of welders in the field in the next couple of years with these infrastructure bills, and no one knows how to weld, right? So we had a guy working in the warehouse who just left to start his own welding school. He's got like 6 kids he's teaching. He's going to try to build up. He's going to rent a building. Golden opportunity. Whoever wants to start a trade school to gold mine. But I think like found it a lot too, so we kind of knew what the customer was, and we did a lot of job site visits. We went out into the wild and we went to a lot of job sites, and we talked to a lot of guys, all kinds of different jobs. And what we found was a lot of work around products. So guys were wearing stuff from the outdoor industry, from the fitness industry. The guy was wearing like a hodgepodge of stuff. One of my best friends who I grew up with is a bridge deck repair foreman for a company called SBS here in Massachusetts. One of the biggest and best companies in the States, owned by the Kapaluva brothers. They're great people. He is so insanely tough on his gear, but I went to his house and I'm like, lay out your winter kit for me, lay out what you wear. And he's got, a Callaway shirt here, an Under Armour thing here. He's got, maybe a pair of like actual work brand work pants, but it was not a head to toe work kit at all, right? Because whether some of these workwear brands make base layers and stuff, they typically don't make good stuff top to bottom like a Patagonia does. They miss the mark, and these guys are consumers. They want to wear stuff that they like, and everyone likes different stuff. So we did a lot of research of like who the guy is and who our customer is. And our price point is not for everyone. It's not for like the laborer who has to, maybe has a kid and it's a little maybe expensive for him. I think when he buys it, he'll see the value in it because it will last longer. There's a tremendous amount of value in how long it lasts. The sticker, I think people have to, in this economy, what's going on, like we know that a $198 pair of work pants is not for everyone, but it is for the guy that is earning, and it is for the guy that knows good gear. And that's kind of who we specialize. And we see it also like in the B2B partner we're working with. We're talking to a really large construction company right now in California, could be potentially like our biggest B2B order. They're the best of the best, right? They do a $10 billion turnover, right, around the world in construction. And they want their guys in the best stuff. They don't want just another Carhartt hoodie. They want in like an American made, best fabric, best stuff we can get, for our guys. And that's who we're trying to reach and who we're trying to serve. But it's not a perfect science. And I think we're always learning every day, like who that customer is. We're always learning every day, like how to talk to that customer. We're always learning every day, like what that customer really wants. And we're always trying to make improvements in our product. We make updates to our product all the time, right? It's not something we're like, that's dumb. We're going to set it, like, Ted's the CEO of the company, and he's on the ground in factories making updates. He's on the phone looking at stuff. Like, we're always just we're driven to make the best product we can, because it's just like our word, and it's him and I on the line. We claim we make the best workwear, and we want to stand behind it. Right? We never want to be these guys that are just kind of shilling snake oil out there, because there's enough of that. Everyone gets enough of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and I'll back you up on the trades comment. I mean, I can't tell you how many service-based clients we've had that are just crushing it, right, and making good money, and I'll never forget, my home inspector was like one of the top home inspectors in the city, and like, he was a young guy. He shadowed under like one of the old boys in the industry, and learned everything he could from him, and then was like, cool, now I'm going to take everything I learned from him old school, I'm going to put all the new school spin on it, use the tech, use the iPad, use all the cool software that's out there, run some Google ads, and then he just built it up, right? I mean, we even had a guy on the podcast, Alan Draper, and he was a lawyer, and he was tired of it, so he actually ended up starting a pest control company, and made so much money from his pest control company that now he's like an angel investor. He's invested in all these business. He's building up a personal brand. Like, he's killing it. And just like, yeah, is running a pest control company sexy? No, not necessarily, but is driving around, in a new Porsche and all the other stuff sexy? Yeah, nobody cares now what he does, right?
I love it. Some dudes love running around too. Some guys aren't. Like, listen, my nephew's this way. Like, my brother has a side business he started. We've already gotten him involved in at 13. Like, he can't be in a classroom. He can't be behind a screen. Some people are just built to kind of be out there. And like, and you're dead on. I have a really good friend, Zach, down in Rhode Island. He started a company called Downspout. You can Google it and check it out. It's basically like it's pressure washing. It's window cleaning. It's like roof pressure washing. It's like specialized for commercial stuff. And like, he's an awesome guy, and he works his ass off. And I've watched. He's young. He's 26. In like 2 years. Right, he's doing amazing, right? And I'd be hard pressed to see many young dudes that are doing that well on his own. Like, so it's out there. And I think one thing I can get across in the podcast, it's not always like some e-com business that you need to start if you want to be an entrepreneur. There's a lot of ways to be an entrepreneur. And to be honest with you, I've seen more successful entrepreneurs, because I talk and I'm in the space. I know a bunch of operators at a lot of brands, guys that start a lot of stuff. We've raised some money. We've got guys on our board that are privy to like all the deals, because they work. Some of them are involved with some of the bigger VC funds, and I've seen way more success in service-based business than in shorter periods of time than I've ever seen in any cash and carry e-com business.
I believe it.
That's where I see some of the bigger deals going on. Like, M&A is dead outside of service, right? I mean, I see bigger deals happening around service-based businesses getting bought and sold. Mom and pop HVAC companies selling for like huge dollars, and I love it. Because how hard that those families have worked to build that business. And it's not like, some online tie business or something. It's like, it's HVAC. That dude was underneath an AC. He earned that paycheck. And so I love seeing it, man. I love it. And I think that's the future, because unfortunately we live in a world where, outside the baby boomer generation, no one knows how to do anything.
Yeah.
No one knows how to do anything. Myself included. Like, I'm not insanely I'm maybe a little better than a couple of generations kind of beneath. No one's fault. It's just that pushed on these generations coming into it. It's like, you gotta go to the best school, and this stuff, working with your hands, was just something that was important. It wasn't talked about, it wasn't pushed. And so sitting in the factory, we're like, go get your car fixed.
Yep. Oh no, absolutely.
You're gonna be waiting a few weeks,
Yeah, sure. No, it's true. I mean, and you mentioned kind of building brands on a startup budget, and I know a lot of people listening are in that same boat. I mean, I'm curious, what are maybe some like creative marketing tactics you use to grow brand awareness for 1620 just without breaking the bank in the early days?
We were super fortunate in my relationship set specifically, as I came from the action sport world working with some really high profile athletes and some really high profile guys. So like in today's world, like the biggest hack for an e-com brand is you got a Jocko, you got a Joe Rogan, you got, a celebrity, a musician, and these guys are powerful and they can really move brands. And like those relationships are earned. There's nothing, fake about it when these guys are backing your brand. They're either investors, they're either part of it, but they're difficult to achieve. And like, that's, I respect the brands that have those relationships, but not easy to achieve and set up. So I had some athletes, I had some Olympic medal snowboarders, and I had some, famous skateboarders and some guys that I was able to kind of seed some product with early. And like, it only took a little bit to kind of get us started. And like, our business was so small at the very early stages, but every little thing helped to think, I can't thank those guys enough. I mean, one guy that I have to give such love here, and he's a member of our company, and all of our initial content, all of our photos came from a guy by the name of Brian Nevins, briannevins.com. He's, in my opinion, he's the best photographer in the world. I mean, he shot everyone from Sting to the Rolling Stones to Big Poppy to, like, you know, local events and sailing teams and skateboarders and action sport guys. And he helped create just like really amazing imagery early on when we probably did not have product that warranted the way he made stuff look. I mean, he always said to me, you know, it's not the Arrow, it's the Indian. And he's just an amazing guy. And he was able to really capture our brand in a way that gave us a great position. But he also had his network of folks, right? And he kind of came along for the ride for a percentage of the company early on, and helped us network a ton of things early and just get gear out to certain people. And then just relentless persistence in terms of communicating and hammering and talking to people and figuring out. And also in 2016, the internet was a little more friendly place. You know, not to dissuade anybody right now, but it was easier to get eyeballs on stuff. It was less competitive. CACs were cheaper and all these kind of things. So we could stand up a website and stand up some social media, and it was a little bit easier to get traction. That world just evolved so quickly. There wasn't as many channels, and timing was right. You know, we were ahead of a lot of the new workwear brands in the space, whether it be a True Work or a Brunt or any of these brands in the space. Like we were on the field before they were, so it was just kind of good timing as well. Yeah, I mean, dude, there's a lot of, like, it was scary. I don't think you could, if you're not scared as an entrepreneur and you're starting a company, and you're not really an entrepreneur starting a company, or you were born with a lot of money and it doesn't, you know, you can burn it. It doesn't really scare you as much. I mean, you know, there's a lot of insanely sleepless nights and a lot of days of I didn't know what else to do but just be in the office and grind because I can't fail. My business partner's the same way.
Yeah.
We both left like really good jobs and put it all on the line. Everyone thought we were crazy to do what we did, and we just hammered it out. And like, thank God I had a partner. I don't think I would have been able to get here, and hopefully he feels the same way without a partner. I think like partnerships are very tough. Some of the best advice I ever got was, you know, partners are for dancing. They're very tough. They're very tough to make work and last a long time. And I think we've done a really good job getting this far together and doing what we've done. But it was definitely nice having a partner to commiserate with, being like, yo, I'm broke. Are you broke too? What are we gonna do for lunch today? I don't know. Like, I didn't put gas in my car today. Can you come pick me up? And like, you know, we put every dime we had into it. So before we raised the friends and family round, we were operating on fumes. Like there was some debt kind of going up, and so it was an interesting journey. It's been an interesting journey to kind of get here, but you know, we did raise some capital after our initial deal. We did it, you know, with a convertible note and a friends and family round, and we had some good representation early that at least advised us to do it with a convertible note, and then we were able to get the flywheel spinning. We had some cash flow, and so then it was just sort of like, all right, you know, how much stuff can we sell, and where do we sell, and do we sell to retailers? Do we just sell it ourselves? And it's kind of learning the whole kind of thing from scratch, what the distribution channel is going to look like.
I love it. And, you know, we've mentioned some pretty established players, right? Like the Carnharts of the world and whatnot. I mean, what disruptive strategies do you feel like you've used to position yourself for success? And maybe even Burn, because obviously Burn was in the same boat, right? Like you've got major established brands in that space too, and then Burn became like a household name, right? I mean, right? It's just like out of nowhere, I feel like.
Yeah, they're both disruptors. I mean, Burn even more so because there was really big players in that category and no one was doing anything different. So we came to the market with like insanely radical different shapes and looks, and they were just immediately copied by the entire industry. And there was a lot of trade dress and trademark issues, and went through years of trying to stop the big brands from kind of copying us. But that was insanely disruptive at the time. And again, like timing was a really big part of that. We built that company up to, at its height, close to 17 million pretty quick. I think like in the first 4.5, 5 years. It was wild, right? And we had like, you know, 45 international distributors and 25 full-time employees. I was on the road like 7 months out of the year. It was an awesome time. The action sports were just popping. We had great athletes. It eventually was unsustainable because the big players would create their own helmets and just leverage it in against targets. We were able to disrupt the whole industry and get like this place that it became really tough to kind of manage. Then we pivoted to become a bike brand and an e-bike brand, and it's still a very strong brand. I still talk to those guys. I still have a little bit of skin in the game, and they actually had a really good year last year. They found a lot of strength in the commuter market and the e-bike market. On the 16-20 side of the ball, you know, there's one 800-pound gorilla in the room that's easy to kind of poke a stick at. And because it's such an old brand, we came up with some interesting taglines, like, you know, like not your father's workwear, and just kind of like his car was just like old school heritage brand, and like, you know, do you want to wear the same pants that they wore in the 1800s when they were building the railroad or this and that? And like, we always kind of wanted to. I used to always say, it's funny because it dropped a workwear line, but I used to always say, like, we want to be like the Volk. And Ted, big fan of the Arc'teryx brand. And our early silhouettes were actually designed and laid out by a guy by the name of Conroy Noctegal, who's one of the original designers at Arc'teryx and helped develop their whole edge veil, or excuse me, valence line. So we had some forward-looking designs and stuff, and like, yeah, we tried to call them out a lot. In those early days, you could get away with a lot of like, call-out marketing. Guys would come in with like holes in their pants. The competitors, we kind of call them out, and I think the price point itself was disruptive. We were able to get a lot of good earned early press because we were claiming we wanted to be the Yeti. There's a famous article that I think Gear Junkie did, and those guys are awesome. This brand aims to be the Yeti of the workwear market because there was no $600 cooler before Yeti. There was no $200 work pant before 1620. There's still no $200 work pant, right? We're the only guys who sell our gear at our price point in this category. No one really even comes close that's not an FR product. And that was our goal. Disrupted by like price and quality and what we're trying to do, that it was so like when we first would go into meetings with trying to raise capital, and like, we had some great people early on that helped us navigate some amazing relationships. These guys would just look at us and they'd be like, you're trying to tell me, a carpenter or plumber is going to pay this much for pants? Because like the white collar investing world at that time, like they were so disconnected from the blue collar world and what these guys were actually earning. Like if someone comes in their house to hang cabinets, like the man isn't even dealing with it. It's the wife. He's in the office. He's in the office in 7, right? He's running the hedge fund. Like they have no idea, right? These guys are they're completely detached from that world. They have no idea how much they should pay Sea of Green when they come to their house. They're oblivious to it, which is in the favor of the blue collar guy, which allows to kind of upcharge these guys in the marketplace. But they couldn't get their heads around it. People just laughed us out of their office. Like people are like, oh, we'll give you a year. You'll be out of business in a year. The Instagram hate early on, like you guys will be done in 6 months. Like it was fuel for sure. Like, all right, let's see what's up, and we're heading into our 9th year, right? So, but yeah, everyone thought we were out of our mind. Everyone thought we were nuts because, like, literally at that time we were like almost 4x the category, right? And we still have a pant that's 274 and one pant that's 228. So like the average pair of like working pant as a Carhartt jean is like, yeah, it's in the $50 to $70. So, but it's a different product. It's a better product and costs more money.
Yeah, but I mean, some of these guys go upscale too, right? They want to look nice. They want to dress nice. They start buying designer jeans. You're gonna put $200 on a nice pair of designer jeans.
For
I mean, it's
sure.
just that's absolutely right. You're gonna you want to look nice. You want to look classy when you go out with your lady. Like it just happens, right? I mean, it's just.
I'm talking to a group of guys in Manhattan that that run this amazing car club, and they work on like some of the best fun automobiles. What do you think those mechanics want to wear, man? They're not wearing Dickies. Right? They want the best stuff. Like it's nothing but like Snap-on, the best tools in the shop. And there's levels to this game, right? Like there's levels to it in terms of like this place. Like, there's only one Festool, right? Like there's only one Thorogood. Like there's levels to this game, and there's brands that do it really well, and there's brands that do the same 5 years ago. So it's the same, literally in the same factory. Brands are out. There's one locally. It's this Carhartt. It's the same. It's the same offshore boot, and then they try to spin this whole thing of like, oh, it's this and this and this and that. It ain't, man. It's a new brand. It's great marketing, and in much respect, the game is the game. But like we're doing something that's different. It's truly different in the category,
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious, maybe like on that, in your opinion, like what are the key elements that make a brand authentic and resonate with its audience?
Super good question, and I don't know if I really have the answer because it's something that we kind of work at every single day. I think like. And I'm gonna curse here, but it's not a bad one. I just think that consumers are sick of the bullshit, and when money gets tight, the chickens come home to roost. And that comes to the surface a lot more. You can sit and claim all day long that we're selling direct because we want to cut the middleman out, and then a year later open up 40 retailers throughout the country. It's just like if you don't think consumers sees that, like you're fooling yourself. One thing that's very savvy in today's world is the consumer. And the most savvy consumer, in my opinion, is the craftsman, the blue-collar guy, the guy that has to work on things and fix things every day and build things. Like he sees things and he sees quality for what it is and what they are. And you cannot bullshit this customer. And a lot of brands try. And I think in the general consumer world, we're all sick of it. Listen, we all order stuff on Amazon every day. I just bought an electric toothbrush yesterday. It's a lot of hot garbage. There's a lot of hot garbage out there. And I think like as we move forward, consumerism is gonna have to change. I don't think inflation is something just is visiting us this year and isn't gonna come, seagull fly over us again in the coming future. Like things are gonna continue to get more expensive. And in the world of clothing manufacturing, there is an exodus from Asia, and there has been for years. And Vietnam and Bangladesh and India and Sub-Saharan Africa with massive, Chinese ships offshore managing production. Like these are the future of things. And there's great brands of the world like whether it be a Caterpillar that makes like some of the best machines in the world in America, that still like offshore like all their clothing in some places that are gnarly, and Caterpillar, hit me up, we'll make some stuff for you. But it's like, I think like this customer respects the American made, they respect the no bullshit thing, and I think to be authentic and be respected in the authentic marketplace, you only have a couple shots of like not doing what you say. Thank God I have an insanely talented partner on the product side that as I was building the brand and marketing it, most of our claims, if not 99.9% of them have all been true, and we stand behind the product. Like it's crazy that you offer a lifetime warranty on a pant that expensive, and it's wild how little repair or return we see. It's like it's minuscule because the product is so good, and these guys are so used to crappy product. If they get a year out of the product, they get a year and a half out of the product. It's been so valuable to them. It doesn't matter if they blow the product; they wouldn't even know about the warranty because it's like it's fair. I got a year and a half out of that pant. Well, my last pant I got 4 months out of. We get some guys that always send their pants back, and some guys we repaired, 10 or 11 pair of pants for. But we stand behind that. And like early on, we were raising money and capital, and we were talking to people. That was a concern. Like, what happens if you guys scale and like your return rate, and can you manage this? And will it be like LLB? And this customer's honest. He's never tried to take advantage of it. Just like we do a firefighter, first responder, military discount, 365 days a year. There's no login. There's no like ID me. Why would we give a percentage of our sales or pass that cost off to the customer? If you're gonna contact us and tell us you're a police or a fireman or you are armed service, you're a veteran, and you're lying about that to get a discount, whatever. Here's your discount. But those dudes are honest about this stuff. They're not going to do it, and that's just kind of how we've always tried to operate in the space. Is just kind of who we are and really be honest. When we're not the dudes that are out there, there's definitely a few videos of me on Instagram, but we're not the dudes that are out there taking videos of ourselves, talking about our company every single day, doing like walking through the office. This is what we're doing. Look at us and everything. It's just like, it's not about us. Like, it's about the dude who buys our pants because he's sick of blowing his crotch out at 6 o'clock when he gets to the job site. It's really honestly about the working guy. Like, we want to champion this guy since day one by giving him better product. Always been about that for us. This is not an ego thing where it's about us in our company, and there's just so much of that, and everyone's just inundated with that stuff all day long. And I think it's like, do what you say you're going to do in the marketplace from the consumer. Don't be something and someone you're not, and like, don't create a company for a personal platform to like beat your chest and put yourself on flyers and stuff. Like, everyone's just going to think you're a clown. Like, I'm sorry, they are. Like, you're not a celebrity. And like, if you're going to try to use your brand to become a celebrity, then like, all right, man, good luck. There's only so many Elon Musks, like, make good quality for the consumer, do what you say you're going to do, and create those relationships for life, and you're going to win.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love what you said because so many people don't pay attention to it. There's an awesome book. I can't remember it's like the Storyteller's Tale. I can't remember the name of it. I'll remember it. But they talk about like how your website should flow and who the hero is, right? Because in every story, there's sort of like the hero and the narrator, right? And all this stuff. The best brands in the world, the website is the narrator and the hero is the customer. Right. And it's the best. Those are the cool. Best brands, and those are the best websites because it feels like it's for me. And especially when you are talking to your ideal customer profile and you have that narrowed in, it's like, okay, I'm landing on this website and I'm like, this is either for me or not. And if it's not, I bounce and there's no worries there. But if it is for me, I resonate with it right away. I see myself on the site, and you're totally right. Like it's rampant in the agency world, even where I see it left and right. Like there's an agency that I know them pretty well. I've taken a couple employees of theirs, but it's like their homepage is these two guys next to each other with their Rolexes, and it's like you're pushing away so many people just with that, right? And again, if you're a celebrity, then run with it, go for it. Obviously, you want to use that. That's different, but everybody else, like and I think there's still a time and a place for the founder story. People still love that. So don't. I hope people listening aren't taking me the wrong way because we'll run the founder story all day. Why did I come up with this brand? Why did I decide to use this fabric? All that stuff. That's important. People want to hear that story. But absolutely, it can't be all about you. It's got to be about the customer. Why this is the best product for you.
You're always like this. We did this. Look at me and look at me. It's just like it might work first because you feel like an underdog to people, but there's no staying power. And the product has to be the hero. And we're like what you're delivering to the consumer. That has to come first. And like for us, it's real simple. Like we just, we saw all of our friends working in shitty stuff, and we want to make better stuff for them. We're doing it for them. And the guys that get it, we have insane loyalty with them. It might not be the best advice because it's a slower, right? And some of these brands where the guys are on every single post is them talking about their company, they're doing way more rev than we are. So like, I don't know everything here, right? I mean, like, I'm not the most successful entrepreneur in the world. I mean, I've built a couple brands and we're doing good, but like, that's my personal view on it. And as a consumer, that's what moves a needle for me. If Kelly Slater says he's making product, I'm going to buy it because it's Kelly Slater. But if the guy that's making his fins or whatever, if it's all about him, like, and he's just talking about himself, for me, it's a huge turn off. And I think, what you're talking about with this agency, I get a lot of that as well too. And then you go to these companies, guys' websites, and like the megalomania like pops off the screen. You're like, well, I don't want to work with this guy. Like you know that this is going to be a difficult thing to kind of work with, and just there's not a lot of tolerance for bullshit in this world. I think like if you spend any time on a job site, if you really actually spent time on a job site, you could talk about that like my friends are this, my friends are that, but like have you put a belt on and spent time on the job site, and then you'll know that like there's just no room for it, and it just doesn't exist in this world. And I think these customers appreciate if it doesn't exist with your brand and your marketing, and they can relate to it. And I think the brands who do it the best in this space are tool brands. There's just no BS with tool brands. All about everything they work on is trying to make the job more efficient and faster for these. And these guys love tools, right? They're nerds over tools.
Oh yeah, and you can't lie, right? It either works or it doesn't, and everyone's gonna know.
If it's a POS, it'll blow up in these guys' hands in a couple of days. And one of my favorite guys, if you're in the trades, you don't follow him, is Joe Canning, the Canadian carpenter. He's just like an awesome dude. He's become a friend of mine. He's like an amazing influencer in the space, and he's supports a lot of brands, does a lot of tool testing. He's given us a bunch of amazing feedback, and I respect him the most because early on in our relationship, he was just like, "You guys can go F yourselves. Like this stuff's crazy, and who's gonna buy it?" And then like there were some fit issues and some stuff we sent him. He called us out on. He's just like, "No, like it's got to be better. It's got to be this. It's got to be that." And like now we have a good relationship. We send him gear. He's actually a customer. He's bought some stuff, but he pushed us to be better. He pushed us to be legit in the space, and I have love and respect for that guy forever for that. Like, real ones respect real ones, and I think like we needed to hear some of the things he said to us, and we didn't just blow it off and said like, "Oh, he's a shitty customer," on to the next influencer we could pay to do stuff. Like we're not that brand that's raised $30-40 million to go out and burn cash. So we've had to earn customers, every single customer, one pair of pants at a time, and we want to continue to do it that way. Hopefully scaled up like it is now, but like we want each customer to kind of have that feeling. Every pair of our pants is hemmed to order. Like personal touch goes into every product that leaves the building, and we think it's important.
Yeah, no, I love it. The book is Building a Story Brand. Finally remembered.
I like that.
Building a story
brand.
I
love the customers that hear on a website. It makes me think about some dev updates we should be doing right now.
It's a really great book. Josh, man, really awesome advice. I really appreciate it. Any particular maybe advice for aspiring entrepreneurs who are looking to build something meaningful and impactful?
I read a really cool thing last week, and some people have probably seen it online, but it was, it said life is hard, right? Like it started off by saying, marriage is hard, divorce is hard, choose your hard. The job you hate is hard, chasing your dream is hard, choose your hard. I think if you've had aspirational, inklings to be an entrepreneur and you have an idea and you want to go do it and you're unhappy in your place or what you're doing for work, it's a short trip, man. And you should go after it because that's the greatest thing about being an American is like, everyone complains regardless of your political ideation. Everyone has something to complain about this country. Like, in what world can like someone say they want to start a workwear brand and that there's a dude like Zuckerberg who built a platform where like you can go toe to toe with a $2 billion work brand. And people can see your stuff, the same people who sees like how cool is it that we live in this country where you could do this. If you got the balls and you want to work hard, you can do it. And I think like that is so cool. And I think you cannot take that for granted. And I think if you don't take that chance, you're selling yourself short, you're selling the country short with the opportunity that you live here and you can do it. Like there's so many places. I've been around the world, man. I've spent time in a lot of places that are way less fortunate than ours. And I gotta say, like, so many young people would kill for just the opportunity to even have the idea, to even think about, leaving the 60 hours a week they have to put in to help feed their family. And you're sitting there, strumming on Instagram, like, should I go start my own company? I really don't like, the vacation time and the job sucks. It's like, you should do it because you live in America and you have the opportunity to make that choice to go off your own and try to start your own. And like, it's so cool. I appreciate it so much. I appreciate every day that I was able to do this stuff and build this company and interact with these guys. And we're fortunate to have it. So my advice is, if you thought about it, don't be stupid, be smart, especially if you got a family, you have stuff on the line. And then before you take dollar number one, get a good business lawyer. That's my advice.
I love it. I love it. It's so true. Yeah. Good lawyer's great. Be careful who you get into bed with, i.e. who your business partners are, right? Make sure it's somebody you trust, but a business partner is a great asset to have. If you don't know where to find one, start networking, right? I know you're a great networker, and that's just start going to events, start going to things. I mean, I think that's the other beauty of it, as well as, in most places, I know there's certain areas of America where there are more remote, but in most places, especially any city, even a small city, they've got so many things to support local businesses, right? Like I tried to start a very local business in college, and I couldn't believe the support that there was. Like even me as a college student trying to start this business where, I could talk to city officials, there were forums, SBA wants to help you out. Like we were getting sponsorships from local banks, local hospitals, right? Like everyone was interested and wanted to support kind of a local business too, right? And so absolutely, I'm with you. And I love what you said too about not trading away, not shying away from the trades, because I think it's nuts, right? It is like every one of our service-based clients is having problems hiring people, like hands down, right? They're like, leads are not my problem, hiring people is my problem. So
I watched my brother leave a really big golf course superintendent job at a really big course, huge 6-figure salary, to start his own business, and it's insanely successful. And his biggest problem is finding some help and getting some more trucks and vehicles. And I think, like, listen, don't get pigeonholed in just this DTC e-com world. You can advertise for service businesses on Meta too. Like use the same vehicles and the same mechanisms. It's just different businesses, much better margins.
Yeah. No, it's true. Absolutely. And it's like, in my eyes, it's like the franchise, right? Franchises are way more likely to be more successful than, a non-franchise business. And I feel like it's got to be the same with service-based businesses over whatever. SaaS, you probably got to raise money. E-com, right? There's always inventory and all these other things. Like service-based, at least it's just, you put in your time and you do the work, and that's that. But Josh, I really
awesome.
appreciate everything, man.
I
This has
appreciate
been a great episode. And if anybody wants to reach out to you, anywhere good for them to reach out?
Anyone can email me direct, josh@1620usa.com. If you're listening to this and you got businesses that you run logo wear and you want to buy some American-made stuff or support what we're doing, I'm the one who handles all that B2B and enterprise, so just feel free to reach out to me. Our website is 1620usa.com. Our Instagram handle is 1620usa. And really appreciate being on, Samir. I love to talk, obviously, and just super passionate about what we're doing, and I appreciate every day I get to do it.
That runs true. It speaks true, man, and I love it. So I celebrate you and your success, and definitely encourage people to check you out.
Killer, man. Have a good day. Talk to you soon.
You too. Thanks.
Later, Samir.